You're listening to Let's Talk AI.
Good day. Welcome to Let's Talk AI. I'm Harold Godwin, Managing Director for Waterloo AI. I'll be your host. Today's guest is Ben Cox. Ben is the founder and CEO of a company called Page. Welcome, Ben.
Thanks, Earl. It's really great to be here.
It's awesome to have you today, and we're all fascinated to learn about what is Page and what you're doing there. But before we start, let's go back. Tell us your background. What was the pre-Page thing before that? How did it build up to this?
Yeah, I mean it's a long story. But previous to starting Page, I was a director of engineering at Shopify. Started there not too long after university in the support team. Like I was like the guy answering the phones when they were a relatively small startup, nothing like they were today. But over the years, I wound up in the engineering org and then as a dev, and then worked my way up. And I had the privilege of working on a lot of Shopify's early AI efforts, particularly when the LLMs really started to take off over the past few years. And then I left, coming up on a year ago now, and started digging into different things that I could work on and find interesting. And I've always had a passion for government. I'm one of those weird nerds like that, and started to make a go of it with Page.
Okay, so you kind of give us a little tease there. It's about government. So what is Page and what is this all about, and how are you bringing value to that government sector or others trying to get access to government? Please expand.
Yeah, so what we're working on is really bringing AI to the government relations sector. And not a lot of people are particularly familiar with what government relations is, but this is the industry and they're the professionals that help organizations and enterprise navigate and understand what government is doing. And it's a shockingly important part of how our government works, and they do some really great work. And what we're doing is using AI to help capture everything that's happening in government because, it's big, it's only getting bigger, it's incredibly complex. There's a lot to understand, a lot to keep track on. And AI is going to really help make that easier and save a ton of time while uncovering insights like we've never been able to do before about what government is doing and where it's heading.
So when you say capture everything, that's a pretty big term. Could you give us some ideas? What does that mean, everything?
Yeah, like our goal really is everything. So what we've started with is we've built this really great pipeline for our data where our AI is able to use different models, video or image models, audio, text, and combine that in unique ways, and then feed it to other AI models that then distill it and analyze it to pull out cool insights. So when I say we're capturing everything, we're using various models to ensure that we can consume live video, we can consume live audio, we can consume recorded video or audio, and of course text, right? Like all the text that gets produced, like regulations and laws and that sort of fun stuff.
So throughout a year, you get new policies that come out, different levels of statements coming out from federal, provincial, local governments, municipal. Where is this targeted at?
All of them. So right now, like we kick things off with the federal government of Canada because we're Canadian and they're the biggest. But we're going to everywhere. We're starting to work on Quebec and Ontario, BC, Alberta. We will get to the rest of the provinces and then start working on Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, even Waterloo region and the Edmonton, Calgary. And then from there it's global domination. Start going into the UK and the EU, Australia, US. Because of the way we've built our pipeline, we very intentionally made it agnostic to the jurisdiction. We're not coupling it to anything. The joke I keep making is if our pipeline, if we wanted to apply it to monitoring the state of soap operas, it could do that. But we're choosing to use it on tracking government.
So this is info from government, but what seems to corrupt the whole data flow is everybody's opinion on what flows from government. How do you segment the two of those?
Well, they're actually both super useful, right? So, one of the big use cases is it's one thing to understand what like government policy is, what the regulations and the laws are. Those are pretty static and change slowly. But where things get really interesting is when you start understanding what government is doing as it's discussing it, as it's trying to understand it, as it's doing studies and debating things. Because that's where the sausage gets made. And if you're staying on top of things and you're understanding it at that level in that like time span in like a real time sort of way, it gives you an opportunity to get involved in the conversation and move things in a direction that you think is best for yourself, your company, your organization, or even the country. So the understanding the opinions is just as crucial as understanding the result of all those opinions come together.
Right, but how do we know if the opinion's real and it's not a deep fake or, things like that? I mean, seriously.
No, yeah, you're 100% right. So, what's great about our use case is that the data that we're capturing is real. We know it's real. We're capturing primary feeds, official sources, reputable organizations. None of the data that we're going at, we're not going on Twitter or X and grabbing the thoughts and opinions of some random person. What we're interested in are the thoughts and opinions of policymakers, the people that are in charge and have their finger on the button, so to speak.
So you seem to have identified a need or a want. How did you get there? How did you know this was like a value and to whom would it be of value?
Yeah, so I actually, my weirdly enough, I have a degree in politics. So that's what I went to university for, to study government and to understand government. And a service like this has been something that I knew could be useful for a long time. But it's only really, I mean, the past year, but really the past 6 months or so, where the technology to enable it has existed. And even then, like my co-founder and I were really pushing the envelope of this tech to make it work. Uh, but every big company that you can think of, the University of Waterloo, NGOs, or industry organizations, they all spend a lot of time understanding what government is doing because of the impacts it can have on them. And a tool like Page is going to make it substantially easier to do that. Our other hope is that a tool like Page can make the process of understanding and analyzing and influence government significantly easier and therefore significantly cheaper. And we're going to enable more people, more organizations, smaller companies to participate in the crafting of policy because they're going to be able to keep up on what's going on and understand the impacts that it can have on them. So our hope is to bring this to more people and to more organizations and allow greater participation in policymaking.
So you kind of made an intonation there that this might be a two-way tool. There might be feedback that can push back to governments or influence them on their next steps.
Absolutely, like that. I mean, that's the at the end of the day, that's what people want to do when they watch what government is doing, right? Like you and I included in that. When we read the news, when we open the Globe and Mail and see what Trudeau or Ford are doing, what we're thinking about is, okay, do I like that? Do I agree with that? Is that a good thing? And then we're going to vote one way or the other. The whole point of keeping tabs on government is to influence the direction of where they're going. And that's true of industry orgs and NGOs. They want to understand what government is doing and the impacts it has on their industry, good or bad, and help government understand the impacts that they're having on our economy and on their business, and help influence how those policies get crafted.
So what challenges have you faced in ramping up with Page and data and the AI tools, talent, people? Like, what are some of the challenges you faced?
Yeah, I mean, I think I already hinted at it a little bit, but the big challenges so far is that this technology is incredibly new, and I mean, it's a good thing for a nerd like me, but my co-founder Elliot and I we're having a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work. Making what we want and what we know is possible exist, and we're pushing the boundaries of not only what we typically think computers are able to do, but we're also pushing the boundaries of even what these new LLM models and AI models are capable of, and we're using them in unique ways. And it's been fun. Don't get me wrong, but it's been an incredible technical challenge to get this far. And based on our roadmap, that's only going to get more challenging, but more fun as well.
So, would this give us access to local municipal bylaws? Like really going right down here at the granular level? Or is it more on policies and things like that?
No, that's exactly where we want to go. Like local government is wildly underappreciated, the impact that it can have on your day to day life. It's the government that you interact with most on a day to day basis. As you know, you leave your car parked out overnight and you get a ticket, or you left your garbage bins out, or you didn't put your garbage bins out in time because the garbage truck is coming by at 7 a.m. And who wants to get up to go put the bins out at 7 a.m., you know? We want to get down that far. We want to enable organizations, individuals, whoever, to understand even what's happening at the local level.
Do you have buy in from government or do you even need buy in? Are you just going to go ahead and do this and let them warm up to it?
I mean, yeah, it's more of the latter. What's great is like we live in a very democratic and open country. So a lot of the data that we're grabbing is out there to be consumed on purpose, because that's the whole point of having a democratic government. So we don't necessarily need buy-in from government, but on a personal level, I genuinely do believe we're actually going to be helping make government more transparent than it's ever been. Certainly since the complexity of government has gotten greater over the past few years, and that's only a net good for our country and for any democracy for that matter.
So talk for, let's go down that rabbit hole of transparency. What does that mean to you and where have we been and what does this mean more transparent?
Yeah, so with like one of the key facets of a democracy is that you can understand what's happening and who's doing what and who voted which way, and the process of creating new laws, new regulations is open, and people are able to understand it and ultimately have a say over it through either elections or writing your MP or whatnot. Um, the issue though is government is huge. When a lot of our systems were created and ideated, government was not nearly as large as it is today. And I don't necessarily mean just from like a physical perspective or the number of employees that it has, but I mean from the scope that it deals with. Like government touches everything nowadays. And realistically, no matter how transparent government is, no matter how much content they put up or how many committees you're able to watch, there's more than any single individual could possibly consume or understand. So as a result, we rely, as individuals, you and I would rely on journalists and newspapers to keep track on what's going on and tell us what's important. Large industry organizations have government relations specialists who will try and monitor everything. But even then, even the largest government relations firms, even the largest companies can't keep up with everything that's going on because, like you mentioned, there's not just the federal government, there's the provinces, there are municipalities. If you're an international corporation, multiply that by 192 countries globally. So with Page, increasing transparency is using AI to cut through all of that noise. Basically, like delegate to the computer the responsibility of understanding what your needs are, what your interests are, what your concerns are, and dive through the data, find the relevant stuff, and bring it to your attention quickly. So it's that to me is ultimate transparency in government.
So would Page be like a search tool or something that prompts you and just you set some automatic things and it keeps, every time that happens, it sends it to you? Or how do you envision Page being accessible or, workable for these organizations that would use it?
Both, right? I think the automated alerting in real time, the AI is watching things as it happens. It understands, it's analyzing it as it happens. It understands what's going on, and right now, it's already able to send you a note, send you a notification, send you an email, whatever, about hey, you should read this, you should understand this. Here's what this means for you. And what we're also working on is more similar to what you mentioned with search, where we have this huge breadth of data. With the help of an AI co-pilot, it'll help you navigate through not just like historical records or what happened or what was said, but the trends and how they've evolved over time, which it pulls out some truly fascinating insights, and then more importantly, helps inform where things might be going. If things are trending in a certain way with a certain political party or a certain politician, it helps you understand, okay, hey, this could get worse or this could get better for me, and gives you an opportunity to get involved and understand, or change the direction if that's what you want to do.
Interesting. So I know there's been a lot of effort and shift in our culture and society towards reconciliation and all the acknowledgement to Indigenous. Is it a search tool that someone could go in and look for specific policies related to Indigenous? I'm picking that as an example. Or, what level of granularity could they go through?
Yeah, that's one of the most powerful parts of using the AI tooling and the models that we've set up, is that it's agnostic to the topic or your wants. Like, using these AIs, the joke I keep making is it's like having access to an infinite number of interns. So if you can imagine yourself delegating this task to an intern, hey, go find me X and explain to me why, it's more than capable of doing that. So anything on Indigenous relations or environmental policy or social policies, defense, whatever you're curious about or what you're interested in, the AI is going to be able to, or is able to dig through everything and understand it, distill it, analyze it, and give you the insights that you're looking for.
So do you think, you said you came from political science as an undergrad, do you think political science students would be using this to explore as a research tool? Would they have access to it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, yeah, access is one. I don't know if they have access to it just yet, but maybe one day. And because, like, I think there is going to be an incredibly powerful research aspect to this product and to this company, and I think that's it's going to be really interesting where it goes. It's really early for us building this capability, and what's been a lot of fun is discovering new use cases for what it can do, because it's so open ended and it's so capable of doing so many things. We're not even sure where it's going to end up and what it's able to pull out.
At the beginning, you talked about, this is leveraging AI tools, which have only come on board recently. Give us some insights to what those tools are.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, LLM is a huge part of it. Large language models are a huge part of it, and the multimodal aspect of these models has been absolutely game changing for us. So being able to understand live video and being able to understand voices and embedding those, and there's just so many different technologies, not just the core LLM or interacting with OpenAI or Bard or Llama or Gem, whatever pick your model. That's been great, but it's the ancillary ecosystem that's been built around this new LLM technology that has been really fascinating to work with. And then we start combining them together and in unique ways. The results can be nothing short of mind blowing, frankly.
So let's fast forward now to what's that going to look like in the future when it is done, when it is ready? When do you think that would be roughly? And I know that's the hardest thing to ask a founder, an entrepreneur, because they always want to think it's going to be done soon and it takes longer than they expect. But what is that going to look like? What languages? Is it just English? Is it French? Is it all language? What is it all going to look like in the future?
So what's cool about Page is, well, by nature I'm a very impatient person, so it's already out there. It's usable. People are using it right now as we speak, and the response has been outstanding so far. Um, but we're only going to be adding more and more features and abilities to Page. And honestly, I forgot what your actual question was.
No, the question was languages. Like what
Oh,
languages
right,
would
yeah.
it be available?
So yeah, like people are using it right now, and that's actually one of the truly remarkable aspects of working with large language models, because the world to an LLM is just a series of tokens, and it's kind of indifferent whether those tokens are in English or French, Spanish or Russian or Portuguese. It's all just tokens at the end of the day. So one of the really powerful features of Page is that we can produce our content in whatever language you want. For the federal government of Canada, for example, obviously there's a lot of content in English, but there's also a lot of content in French. And if, me as an English speaker, I read it all in English now. We're working on consuming a lot of data from the government of Quebec. Again, I can't speak French, but through Page, I'm able to see everything that's happening with the government of Quebec in a language I understand. And we're working on flipping that around. So folks that are in Quebec that want to have a better understanding of what's happening in, say, Alberta, where there's substantially less French, they can read all that in French. I think in general, that's going to be one of the craziest or remarkable things that LLMs can do for us is the ability to translate things is going to be, and I don't just mean for Page, I mean for the world as a whole. Translation tools are about to get absolutely incredible with this technology.
Is there a business model you've already set up? Is it free? Is it a pay per use? What are you thinking?
Not free, that's for sure. But we're a B2B SaaS company, and our pricing and our pricing model is typical B2B SaaS. So what we care about is how much are you going to use it, and it's not pay per use, but we scale it based on the organization that we're working with. So our goal is organizations of all sizes, from a small local NGO right up to a Fortune 500 enterprise. They're all going to be able to use this and use it effectively at a price that's appealing to them.
Okay, and you talked about starting in Canada. You nail that down. What's your next country?
We haven't quite settled that yet. There's a lot of good arguments for which ones to go to. The UK and Australia are very similar to the Canadian government, so there's a logic there. The United States is right next door, so there's a logic there. And the EU is massive, so there's a logic there. What we have been focusing on is, I think I already mentioned this earlier, is having our data pipeline be extremely agnostic to the jurisdiction that it's monitoring. So my hope is that as we add more provinces and get better at adding more jurisdictions, it should accelerate, and hopefully the choice between which country next isn't a big one. It's more like, let's just do all of them.
Okay, so how big is your team?
There's two of us right now, and we have actually there's three. There's three of us right now, and then we have another two joining over the summer. So we're 5 people strong, with a lot of background in tech and Shopify as well.
Okay, so any lasting comments? Like if somebody wants to reach out to you, how did they get a hold of Ben?
We have a website, with.page. It's one of those cool new TLDs, but you can also send me an email, ben@with.page, or find me on LinkedIn just as Ben Cox.
Any final shout out you want to give to any governments? I mean, what if a government says, okay, we want to help you accelerate this? How would they do that? What can they bring to you to accelerate the process?
Oh, plenty. I think one of the cool things in the future is being able, like, there's even a chance that we can help governments make their data more accessible to individuals, make them more accessible to constituents. And I'm obviously biased in this regard, but I think that's an ultimate good thing for all governments to be doing. So if anyone from government is interested in talking about that, I'm happy to chat about that as well.
And if there are organizations that are policy focused, again, are they just a user or are they a collaborative user to help you, shape and grow this platform?
Yeah, we're super collaborative with all of our clients. We've gotten so much incredible feedback from the people we've been working with already, and I think I touched on it a bit already. Some of the more analytical tooling that we're building is incredibly powerful, but that also means there's a lot of it can do, and we're not even sure some of the use cases of it because we're giving it to our users and then seeing what they do. And already there's a ton of features and tons of aspects about Page that have come straight from what our users have requested, and that's a thing that we're going to keep doing.
Okay, well, we wish you all the best to yourself and to Page and your team, and look forward to see where it goes and how soon you become the next shining star in the region.
I appreciate that. Thanks for having me on. This was fun.